Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Abolition Hall Steering Committee for June 25th to order. Couple housekeeping things to start. JC, our Board of Supervisor liaison, is not here tonight, but we will catch her up. And Ed is not able to join us at the moment. I don't know if he might, I guess, monitor in case he does have a change and able to jump on through Zoom. And we have joining us through Zoom, we have Renee and Tom, and is there anybody else?
The rest is us. Yeah,
okay.
The rest is the meeting room, and
perfect.
And Rob and myself.
Perfect. All right. So, and whoever we have, people in the audience, everybody on screen knows. So we're good. Have you had a chance to look at minutes? Mm-hmm. We're
yes.
good?
Yep.
Approval of minutes?
It's got to be her. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Yep.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Excellent. So updates, I think coming first to you, Craig, for Marple Lane.
Yes, first thing is Marple Lane. We opened the bids for Marple Lane on June 2nd. We only had one bidder. It was $226,500 from a Brian Coor, who also owns Stonehenge Masonry out of Bluebell. So he put his bid in. We have a secured check from him for that. We have been in contact with him. We sent him an agreement of sale. We've been going back and forth with that. He did ask for a specific date in July to make final settlement. He does have 60 days from when the board approved it. So it could be the end of July, but he's looking at early July. He's asked for the 7th or the 8th of July. So,
good.
So hopefully we will have a settlement date then, and we'll have $226,500 into the dedicated account for Abolition Hall and Course and Track.
Great. That's awesome.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Any ideas what he plans to do with it?
I'll let you know what happened when we were down there at the open house. Mm-hmm. He came with his wife and his son. They were hoping to buy this for his son as a first homeowner. They have bought historic properties before and fixed them up twice that they moved in as the husband and wife and kids. So that was kind of his thought, that he was going to rehab the property and his son was going to live there.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
And make it look at old with all the original stone.
Yeah, he was talking about even taking off the facade and exposing the stone on the inside. So, it'll be a lot of work, but he's done it in the past,
right.
And I think that would be wonderful for the neighbors and us and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that goes through.
Yeah, that's great news.
I mean, I guess
Sounds like a winner all the way around.
correct. Yeah. Now I can't hold him to that. That's
No, of course
what
not.
we were talking about. And, and he did have some. He called afterwards and asked if he could remove the facade. Is there any kind of facade easement on it? And I told him no. So.
Because it is in the Harb area, does he know, he's aware that he has to go through Harb for
He does, but
approval?
for a Harb, it has to be seen by a public roadway.
Yeah, front facing.
And Marple Lane is a private lane.
So it shouldn't.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Good.
Better.
Yeah.
I ask a question?
Yep. Can you step up just so we have it recorded?
Sidelzo, will the entire proceeds go into the special fund, or will certain legal fees or other expenses be netted out?
I didn't think of that, but.
Don't give them ideas. Come on.
I was thinking the whole thing was going in there, but.
We need it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the legal fee should come out of that, I guess. So
Who makes the decision?
I guess the board would, yeah, so. I can run that by them.
Yeah.
Don't
I
bother.
didn't think about it.
Well, I know, I asked because I know when the township has bought and sold other property, legal fees and other fees have been netted out. So that's, I mean, I didn't come up with this out of nowhere,
Yeah,
right?
It does make sense, I just didn't think about it, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I will write that down, though. So. Okay. Yeah, that's all I have as far as Marple Lane. We have a recap of Juneteenth. Tom Blumstrom is here. I'm going to ask him if
Perfect.
he could give the update on that.
Sure.
He ran it. He
Good evening.
did a great job setting that up. So, thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Happy to report we had our first Whitemarsh Township Juneteenth event on Friday, June 19th. My thanks to not only our team, who members who helped out putting things together, Franco and Nick and Craig, but also Roy Wilson and his wife Ann, who were on hand as well and helping out with just doing some tour and information, questions and answers for folks as well. We originally had, I think the max that was signed up was 22. It had dropped down to 21. We had 11 no-shows on the day. We ended up having a total of, with the folks setting up and helping and all, 18 people there, with the speaker, Jim Seagrave Daly, who did an excellent job and really had an engaged crowd, talking about Blacks and American Indians and the role that they played in the Revolutionary War and how critical it was. He gave an overview of Juneteenth at the beginning. Then he went on and spoke about the Revolution, how those things played in. And he also talked about some of the key characters who were Black, American Indian, and also women in the Revolutionary War as well. And then did a question and answer session. And then folks departed for the bus, which was there promptly to pick folks up following the lecture. And the bus had transported folks from Miles Park and then back to Miles Park. We had some chips, a different variety of, the small Frito-Lay bags on hand for folks, and bottles of water, just to give folks a snack if they would like during the lecture. And was very pleased for, a first time event of that nature, able to have success and then also, learn for the future as far as what, might work better, what min and max numbers, should be based on the capacity of the room. Challenges obviously with Wi-Fi and things of that nature, with technology, and also with access and, parking and the busing. But we were able to pull it all together, and it was a gorgeous day. We had such a beautiful day, and I would be remiss not to add, as I was going to basically kick things off, and the cardboard cutout of Frederick Douglass has been in the room, standing there for how long. And I proceeded to say how excited we are. This is our first Juneteenth event in the historic Abolition Hall. And a gust of wind came through, and the Frederick Douglass historical cutout leaped forward and then fell over. I said it
Tom, are you
was.
storytelling?
I couldn't. Am I right? I mean,
Yep.
Roy and Craig were there. It was unbelievable. It was really.
We saw it. So did
It
everyone else.
was really
Go back and
like.
see the video.
You kind of sat there and went like, wow, okay. So it was a really nice day and nice event. And again, thanks to the Wilsons, they coming out and giving their time. It was obviously very helpful. And folks enjoyed it and were really appreciative and thankful. Roy put out the passport program cards and they got handed out and quite a few people took those. And just a lot of smiles as folks were exiting. So thank you.
That's amazing.
Really cool.
Thank you, Tom. That is so great. And I know there was no cost for the event, and we've talked, right? Or was there a cost? There
Was no cost. It was a free event. People were required to pre-register.
So there's always pros and cons with, I think,
11 didn't show.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't there
yet,
$5?
Roy Wilson's
that's the
tours are
different one.
$5 per
Got
person.
it.
But that's a great point, right? Like, it's helpful
It's
to
a little
put
bit.
a monetary, and you've said this before, Tom, like having something connected to the cost has just a little bit more buy-in. But I think 19, you learned on a gorgeous day that you can open the windows was a good number. Like, had it been packed and bad weather, might not have been as comfortable.
Correct.
Yeah, if we had 35 people in there, it would have been,
It would have been trouble.
yeah.
Yeah. If there was 35 people and it was 95 degrees and,
Big problem.
it was just to open the windows would have just been worse. It would have been cooking. Yeah.
Very uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah, so I think that's I'm so thankful that it happened. I wish I could have been there. But you learn what works well, what doesn't work well, how to do it better the next time. Or differently. Amazing. Any questions, comments?
No, I think that's great.
Cool. And charge money.
Yeah, I think even if it's a small amount of money, at least maybe they won't show up, but at least maybe they'll let you know that they're
Correct.
not going to come. That's,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
yeah, I don't like the no show, no call, but if there's something attached, sometimes they will let you know, which is the right thing to do.
Correct. And we had one person that did call earlier in that morning and just couldn't make it,
Right.
which we were, okay, that's
Yeah.
great, thank you. And then, when we were at Abolition Hall and Nick from Park and Recs, he was doing the bus and he's calling us saying, I have 7 people here, we're
Yeah.
supposed to be leaving, what are we gonna do?
Right.
We're like,
That,
Well,
right.
let's wait a
Right,
little
how
bit
long you
longer.
wait?
Maybe
Yeah.
we're
When you
just running
advertise
late.
things as a limited ticket event, sometimes they will feel bad, like, oh, I don't want to take somebody else's place. Because if you know ahead
that's
of
another
time, like a
great
week
phrase.
out, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it, then we can open it back up and someone can take their seat, basically.
That's
Did we have
that's
a
a
wait
great
list?
phrase.
We didn't have a wait list.
Well, now we know we're capping it at probably,
Yeah, it would be probably
like
less.
12, because then you have people that
The
have
other
to
people.
run the event that have to be there.
And a wait list for those that would
And
be-
doesn't that make it intriguing, I think? Yeah. Sorry, Laura, you're waitlisted.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. All right,
More in
I'll be
demand.
patient, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. Updates on the 501c3.
Yes.
Do you want to just begin with the
Yeah,
status?
Yeah, the solicitor's office has everything that they need at this point. He was waiting on the purpose. I've distributed the final version to the board here. I don't know if you want to read it, Laura, or
Sure.
not. But he has everything. He's ready, putting everything together for the Articles of Incorporation and going to submit that. He said once he does that, he'll give me an update on the timeline and everything else. So we're on our way.
Laura, if you're going to read it, can I just add some context real quick?
Yeah,
Because this came up in our call. So this is the purpose that will accompany the Articles of Incorporation for the nonprofit entity that we're filing, I would imagine, in Pennsylvania or Delaware. This is not the mission statement for the nonprofit.
Correct. This is not the mission statement, no. The purpose.
The purpose, yeah, like, because we also have here the mission statement for Abolition Hall. Was this attached to the agenda?
I gave that to you
Okay,
because you
just
asked
for
for it.
reference.
I
Yeah.
didn't make everyone a copy. I mean, that was
Gotcha.
from
Early.
the first meeting we had here, so it's the same.
Yeah. Thank you for that lead-in. That's perfect. So this is related to the 501, the purpose of it. And so the statement reads, as a purpose, the purpose of Abolition Hall Foundation of Whitemarsh is to support this historic Whitemarsh landmark and to improve, preserve, steward, and maintain the use of Abolition Hall and surrounding open green spaces that were part of this storied piece of the abolition movement and the Underground Railroad. This will be done throughout improving the property by guiding the enhancements to ensure long-term sustainability while preserving the rich history of Abolition Hall, and by sharing that history with the public. The Abolition Hall Foundation of Whitemarsh will additionally seek to increase and broaden its educational offerings to focus on serving the needs of underserved and disadvantaged youth of the greater Philadelphia County and Montgomery County regions. These efforts are aimed at furthering the historic mission of Abolition Hall by providing educational, artistic, and cultural programming that expands opportunity and historical understanding among underserved youth and communities that have historically faced barriers to educational, economic, and civic participation. The Abolition Hall Foundation of Whitemarsh is organized exclusively for a charitable purpose in the manner to qualify as an exempt organization as described under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue. It's robust. And is this something, I mean, because you have some experience with this, Dana, that can evolve as the
Yeah, I mean,
501 evolves?
Once the 501c3 is established in the board, it obviously can like grow as the organization grows. I think more so the mission rather than the purpose. I think the purpose is really the foundation, and the mission statement can evolve as we grow as an organization.
Did you have any other comments there?
No, this is best done overbroad, like it is now, so that when opportunities arise for things like funding,
Excellent. yeah.
if people scrutinize what this corporation's all about, they look at this and see if it aligns. So mission statements are more short, concise, memorable. This is not. And that,
Purposely.
And purposely, yeah.
Yes, it's
Excellent.
broad and flexible.
Questions, comments?
No, it's
Okay.
perfect.
So just bringing everybody up to speed on that.
Yeah.
Any other update comments related to 501?
I don't have anything. Once I have the timeline from Mark, we'll share it with everyone, and we'll put it in the next agenda
Okay.
for an update.
Any questions, comments? Okay. And then any updates on grants?
On the grants, we had 3 grants in there. The Historic Museum Commission grant for the rehabilitation for $25,000. We were not lucky enough to get that. But the PICO 2025 round Green Ribbon Open Space Grant has been awarded. So that's a $10,000 award that we can use for the invasive removals or the tree plantings. So
And that's for this year to be used? Or for
yeah, I think
next
we
year?
have up until the end of next year to use it, but we're hopefully going to use it this year.
By the end of 2027?
7.
Okay.
And
so
then we
that-
still have a Greenways Trail and Recreation for $250,000 that we're still waiting on. So we
And is that matching?
got one, we didn't get one.
Is that one matching that we
Yes.
have to put up?
There's a 20% match, so $65,000. And the idea of that one is for, parking and trails and throughout the site.
Definitely needed.
Yeah, which we found out would be helpful.
Any questions?
Yeah, Craig, does the township have resources to identify and track grants?
It usually is the engineering department that looks at for these. They have a team that is specifically for grants for the different townships that they work for. So they're the ones that really are looking for them, and then we'll get updates throughout, the times with different things from the state rep's office, the senator's office, saying, hey, here's an opportunity, and so forth. So we're keeping an eye out for all that.
Tom's been really great as well.
Yep.
Park and Rec getting grants. But I don't know, as this evolves, if the engineering would continue to help with a 501 with grants. I would imagine that would have to be a separate.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, is this a correct or incorrect assumption that engineering is probably looking for grants relating to the structure and upkeep of the property and maybe not the substance of Abolition Hall?
Probably more of, the structure and the the parking lots, the trails,
Okay.
And all that, instead of grants for programming or anything like that.
Tom, you've worked on grants for Park and Rec, like the, is it the PICO one?
Yes, that was DCNR grant, C2P2 Community Conservation Partnership Program.
So he's a great resource for things that are outside of like structural component too.
Yeah, I mean, if I come across things that, would flag or be in the, in the area or wheelhouse, I certainly will forward it and discuss it with Craig.
Yeah, so we'll keep looking out for other opportunities that we can get.
But that's a good point, because what I hear you say also is a focus to make sure like there's a methodical like check on what's available, and the application process is part of this moving forward group that would need to happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of just know what's out there, what the universe looks like, and it might make sense for us to look at all properties related to abolition underserved projects throughout the state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth for the last 5 years, see what kind of public funding they've received. Because if those sources of public funding happen on an annual or quarterly basis, for us to know about them would be helpful.
Yeah, and you need advance notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of deadlines. Any questions, comments? Yes, please come up.
Craig, does the PICO grant require a match?
The PICO grant does not.
Okay, and for the third grant, assuming it comes through, the 20% match would come from the open space
Open
fund?
space for that one, yes, we'd be
Okay.
able to use the open space for that.
Okay.
So, and it could be a larger project because of the open space, so we could.
Right, you're not limited to the grant amount plus the
Correct.
20%.
It would go.
The
towards-
grant
it
amount
would
could be
help.
portion of a larger
Yeah.
project scope. Okay, and if the grant, if it's the 501c3 that is going to be the applicant for any particular grant, are the resources of the township still going to be available? So, for example, if it's a programmatic grant, Tom brings it to the attention of the committee and the 501c3, would Tom's department still be available?
I don't think so, not for the programs or anything like that. For the land, for the building that the township would own, we would be able to use township funding for that.
So,
Programs for the 501c3 would probably have to be separate.
so who will do the grant writing on behalf of the 501c3?
That's
have to
be
decide that.
determined, yeah.
Okay. Is it anticipated that the 501c3 will have its own budget?
It would be a
At
separate
some
has to.
point, yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
Its own
That's the
budget?
goal.
So that if it wanted to hire a grant writer, yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Like maybe $200,000 to start off with?
$226,500.
Are you Venmoing that?
I was deducting legal fees.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of those points and questions and figuring the details out, definitely. All right, any other updates? Invasives, was there anything invasives currently?
John was looking at it. He thought it would be better to put that out later in the summer.
Okay.
We would get a better pricing in his professional opinion. So we'll be working with him on that.
So over the summer, the mowing happens on a regular basis? Schedule?
Yeah, we have a contract with an outside source to go down there, mow the trail areas and everything, and then we'll, the interior, the middle part, we cut down once or twice a year, but the township does that.
Yeah.
Deborah Harris, I mentioned that it looked like on the Hobb property that there might be poison hemlock along the fence line, and recommended that somebody check that out. I don't know if that happened. I could be wrong about it. I'm not going to go up and give it.
I'm not going to go check it.
Go really closely, and I'm not, but it did look like poison hemlock, which of course would be bad for our staff to run into.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Definitely don't want to find that out.
And it is local. I mean, it is around.
Oh, it is. Everywhere. Yeah.
We have Claire here. One of the discussion points could be any questions for the MTB summary, the report that was given out. I thought there might be. Okay.
And the report has been posted on the website. It is 728 pages in total, so it takes a little bit of time to download if you're going to look at it, so just be patient.
Is it possible to have it is it just right now as one doc?
Yes.
Is it possible to have it so it is easier for people to download if they don't want the full appendices to have
Yeah, we could do
both?
that.
That might make it a little
We can break it down.
kinder, because people might not, what's that?
Where is it on the website?
On the Abolition Hall page.
I think that might be a little easier. You
But
can always
the-
go online and,
As an attachment to the agenda, the, 20-some page
30
report
something, yeah.
narrative
Correct.
is there by
Yep.
itself. And I did try to print the narrative. It's challenging because I assume it's set up to print on 11 by 17 paper,
Yeah, I'm
and
not-
so when I tried to print it, I would only get one side of the page. I want to ask if the township could produce an examination copy that could be here for people who want to come in and look at it, look at the hard copy. It doesn't circulate, it doesn't leave the building, but it's here if you want to look at it.
Yeah,
Maybe-
Can I print it easily?
Well, and, yeah.
we were talking about this,
Maybe
yeah.
get a couple of more booklet copies made so that the intent of the formatting doesn't get lost. Also, in terms of how it might get printed by different printers or different people, so that I think helping to preserve that format helps with legibility.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that very much. I mean, I did ask if I could have a copy, and it was going to be $180-some.
Yeah, through the right to know. Yeah. I was like.
So that's my primary issue, because I haven't really been able to make my way through the document. I've started to read the prior investigations and the 2025, 26 observations. I do have one question, though. There's a reference under environmental to the property's historically been served by 3 private septic systems. They're abandoned, right? The property is hooked up to municipal public
As
sewer.
far as we know, it's connected to the municipal sewer. We have not traced underground utilities yet.
What are you talking about?
Septic tanks? Is that what you're
The
referring to?
report says The subject property has historically been served by 3 private septic
We still have our
systems.
subject.
That information was taken from the building inspection reports at
Okay.
the time of the transfer of the property in 2021, is whenever the,
The due diligence
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
Right.
Those are all superseded, it's all on public sewer.
Yeah.
But there are some pits somewhere,
Potentially,
presumably?
yeah.
Okay. I mean, that potentially could be a safety issue. Anyway, that's really all I have, because I haven't made my way through the report, but thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for working on like a hard copy that we have here, as well as something that might be like booklet-like for uploading. Would that be possible too, to have it in that format, or is that hard?
There's no, I think, you should be able to download it and.
I downloaded it and
zoom to page.
I could see it on screen, but then I tried to print it.
Yeah, it's hard to.
So only the left-hand side of the page would print.
Right, so, I mean, the options are to create a version that then prints single pages, but then you lose you lose control of then how it's printed, but maybe that's not a problem, or no one cares about that. We can get booklet copies. printed
Let's start with that. Yeah.
Preserves that formatting.
And I'd like to suggest that if you can make multiple copies or even 3 copies available, perhaps one can be kept at the Jeans Library, which has evening and weekend hours, so that people can go there to look at it outside of business hours.
If you can produce it, I can drop it off.
We'll get price for getting a certain number.
Yeah, like the monitoring of that, like, you'd have to have like a special not reproducible, not photocopied or something like that on.
It's up to you
Yeah, on
if it's
how it's-
reproduced or not, and it's available.
I mean, that's something I'd
digitally.
ask the board, probably.
Is there anything proprietary or private?
Not necessarily.
Is there any reason why?
I would
We
just
don't
want
just-
the board
I was
to
just
like
wondering
have.
if we do it at the library, that it's kept in-house, somebody can check it out and read it, but it stays,
Yeah, kept at the circulation desk.
right.
Let me be radical for a second. Why couldn't we just put the PDF on the webpage?
It is.
Okay,
It's just printable,
there.
it's hard to
just
print.
not-
got it.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
It's easy to do
Yeah.
online, but not print it.
Yeah, it was hard. I was trying to get the phases in, and I couldn't do it here, so
Okay.
that's why I had to get Claire. I was calling Claire.
And the library makes sense, because there's extended hours.
Yeah.
Coming here is limited.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the only other discussion topic I thought we could bring up was, future programming within the scope of how the property is now, the parking, the weather concerns, anything like that. Like, we have your tours that you're doing that are a hit, so definitely continuing with that. And I didn't know if people had other ideas or questions or thoughts on anything.
Well, I can update that, thank you, Mr. Wilson. We have the tours that are currently scheduled, and then we're scheduling 2 additional tours for the end of this year, one in October and one in November. So we'll be advertising that with our fall items. Also on September 17th, the Abolition Hall is going to be part of the Parks and Recreation Department 250th History Tour. We'll have a flyer that's getting put together for that, and that will be part of a tour that people get on a bus and they go throughout the whole township. So they'll go to St. Peter's and Hope Lodge and the Clifton House and they get lunch during the day. And one of the stops will also be Abolition Hall. So just to update the committee, we've got those things online for the fall.
That's awesome. I just like to have it be publicly said that there is programming happening. Things are happening. as we go into this next phase. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Fantastic.
How about,
Yeah.
let me ask you, with all the letters that were sent out for ideas, was there anything specific that was not super involved that we could get up and running? I mean, this is great. They're going to run something in the fall. You know, summertime, it's tough. We're already
I can go back and look.
at July 4th, but it's
Yeah.
like, what else can we do in this building without, well, once the sale goes through, we have some money. Once that's in the account, we could start fundraising. Maybe we need to develop a letter to send out to,
Contacting schools for field trips would need to happen now because they're already planning like their end of school year field trips. If we wanted to do a lot like the bus tour that they're doing for the 250, I'm working with the Whitemarsh Foundation so that just my field trips, the kids aren't just coming to the Highlands, they're also then going to the Whitemarsh Foundation and learning about birds there. They could also then go to Abolition Hall. So it could be like a small circuit where they're at the field trip for the whole day and not just like an hour at one location. So I'd be happy to like explore that further.
and what could we do, an art project?
I think involving something with the history of the family
Right.
that lived there, either art or music, would be wonderful. Now, obviously, the history can be a part of it. At the Highlands, they have a choice. The teachers choose between like, you know, colonial era history, learning about that, or nature and walking on a trail. Same thing at the Whitemarsh Foundation. It's specifically about birds usually. But yeah,
That's a great idea, yeah.
Why don't we just leave you with this speaker?
Yeah.
Just take the mic with you.
Just to get her steps in.
Believe me.
She has to get on camera, too.
I well over my threshold today. Some time ago, I can't remember exactly when, within the last few years, I was at a program held at the Jeans Library where a few docents from the Woodmere presented on the Hovendens and their art. And it was excellent. And of course, the Woodmere holds several Hovenden works. Actually, they have Thomas Hovenden, Helen Hovenden, and the daughter Martha. They have a few things by Martha Hovenden, the daughter. Bill Valerio, who's the director of the Woodmere, if you recall seeing the video that the Friends of Abolition Hall put together, he was one of the featured speakers. He's very interested in promoting the history of the homestead and the Hovendens. And I would suggest that we contact the Woodmere to see whether they would be willing to bring their docents to Abolition Hall. I think that would be a very well-attended event.
Adults or kids?
I was going to say that would be more adult programming.
Yeah, but were you limiting your question?
Not at all, but
Okay.
I think the original grant, my mind was thinking children, but I think we got to do both.
But we're not limited.
But as,
No.
you know, we're talking about approaching the schools, that's
Yeah.
where I was, but
I
no,
think
I like
that's
your
a great
idea.
thing because we can do both. Certainly the tours now that Roy's doing is definitely more
Right.
it's adults coming through. So to have an additional thing like a speaker or someone presenting the artwork and speaking on the art history of the estate would be wonderful.
They had
I know
a PowerPoint, they had a slideshow of some sort and lots of good information, and they took questions.
Ginger, and I'm blanking on her last name, at the art museum, at the Woodmere Museum, she has done art programming at the Highlands before, like for children. So it could be like a parent and child kind of thing where he presents on the artwork and then the child then can do a project, something like that. Who knows? But
Do we have anybody?
that'd be a great connection.
Do we have anybody left at the art center that can teach a class? Is there an art center?
Yeah.
And are the programs going on there?
Yep, they're still active.
That might be a little soon. maybe. We'll see, we'll see.
Or maybe we need to find somebody that's artistic. It would not be me. I have trouble with straight lines. But,
All right, you're the first.
yeah, well, maybe we can find somebody. I mean, some of the artsy things I've seen on cruises, glass blowing. Every time I see it, it's fascinating. That's something old, and that's something that doesn't take a whole lot of equipment to bring in if you're going to watch.
Well, I mean, with the large property too, you could do a plein air type
Yeah.
day where people are invited to come in.
That had been a
and-
previous
Yeah.
plan.
That could be done now. I mean, I do
With the
that, I don't know, twice a month. It's very
It just gets
easy.
into the parking.
Yeah, it would be,
aspect and
again,
and the
limited
costs, but
spaces.
the money from the sale of the house could help with, because I think we've exceeded the budget this year for,
We have.
Yeah.
Right.
so keeping in mind like the cost of having a bus to take people from Miles Park, but that's where some of that money from the sale of the house could go for something like that,
Or
sure.
we had just spoke before the meeting about surrounding properties getting permission to park there, that we don't need the bus. I said had volunteered before, but we're not
Deb
ready
is
for
door
that.
knocking.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're not
okay.
ready for that. He's going to let me know when I should start door knocking. I can ask for that. I can't ask for money. But again, I think
Yeah, those are
I think we should
alternative
start
ways.
thinking of a letter to the community. We're up, we're running, we've got
That's a
this.
good way to put it, yeah, a letter.
We're open for donations. The more we get, the more we do.
Advertising for the, yeah, if it's a local company, you get
We're
to
getting there.
advertise on our web page.
Once the 501c3 is established,
Yep.
I think that's when
Right.
that should be sent out.
Yep.
I think because of the, Robert speaking on behalf of the Carabats, obviously STEAM or STEM needs to be involved. Well, I would say STEAM because then the A is in there and we can,
There you go.
the
That's
art
right.
programming
That's
can
right.
be like hitting that mark maybe.
Yeah. Agree.
Craig,
Yes.
there's another entrance to the property, correct, down Butler Pike?
Yes.
What is the land like off of Butler Pike there? Like, at some point, could that be a
Absolutely.
parking lot?
I mean, I think that's what we should be looking at because, I mean, even, one vehicle going in there off of Butler or off of Germantown Pike there, I mean, it's, it's close, and you're trying to maneuver around those pillars. But I think further down, we establish that to make that more of the entrance and then you're coming back towards the
And then make it
house.
like a little pathway to take you back toward Abolition Hall?
Yeah, and you could do it easily, yeah.
Just gravel.
But yes, that's a good idea.
Where the orchard had been along the Germantown side too, like that entrance of that, where the dance studio is, like we've talked
Yeah.
about, like partnering with them to park, is that?
I don't know if we would get access to use that as a
Extend that.
driveway for a
Okay.
driveway. I think the access would be off of Butler and then in.
Not to drive in, but if you did get a cooperative
Oh, you could walk
relationship,
it.
walk.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna go through their property to come and to drive through and down. But yes, further down on Butler.
Yes.
is
Roy.
correct.
Just a couple of things I was going to say. The parking lot being on the Hallsby the Hall property is what I've always envisioned what it should be. I mean, it's if you go to some place like the Morris Arboretum and you park in some of those parking lots, I mean, it's a long walk to get into the Morris, and then you're walking for a mile. So, I mean, to park at the Hall property and walk up to Abolition Hall is a nothing walk.
It is.
Unless you're in a
Small,
wheelchair or
right.
something. And it's a pleasant walk, and you can see the properties you come up to. I used to mow the property, my property line right up to the Hall property, and I would go up and talk to Mr. Hobbs. So it's easy, it's already there. It's just a matter of making it really nice grass or possibly stone or something, which you could do. But it seemed like a very simple and
It really is. I mean,
inexpensive. I was going to mention the docents from Woodmere. When that started, Ann and I dealt with them and provided images to them and helped them get their thing up and running. Lastly, I might want to say that the past participant from the art the arts group in Whitemarsh, I mean, they couldn't handle the property. But they certainly could be, I think they did one or two plein air things there, which
Yeah, they'd
a
have.
few people attended. But if they got involved, or they didn't have to do what they bowed out of, but if they could have some charge of 1 or 2 events a year that was strictly art related, because that's what they do now, if it was supported by the township, because, they don't have any money either. I'm sure they could come up with something a little bit more adventurous than the things they've done in the past, and it would give them a chance to get back into the property, because it does have a very strong arts component. They certainly should be involved.
Yeah. Thank you.
Someone made a comment at the last meeting about an orchard being,
Mr. Wilson did.
oh,
yeah.
that was right, okay. I think there's an opportunity for us to consider, landscaping's too formal of a word, but to have kids involved with planting the orchard, kind of an agricultural science, biology spin that will not only fulfill the desires of the Carabats, but also get kids to the property and also help restore the property.
I totally agree. That has come up in conversation, not specific to the orchard, but in context with the land having been farmed before, to have it be a working component that involved the kids as a part of the project and use. Yeah, I think it's great.
There's a group called Philadelphia Orchard Project that establishes orchards on historic properties, and they do a lot of interesting programming. Their current base of operations is at the Woodlands, and so we work with them in that setting as well, but they've done orchards at Woodford Mansion, Strawberry Mansion, and several other of the Philadelphia historic properties. So some group like that would potentially be a helpful launch point for a project like that.
Thank you.
And what, Philadelphia Orchard?
Project,
Oh, project.
His name escapes me at the moment, but he's on the Planning Commission, and he's an environmentalist and has his own nonprofit,
The Township
Land
Planning
Health
Commission?
Institute. Yeah, he's on the, and I can't pull the name out right now. But he runs a nonprofit called the Land Health Institute. You're looking up the, okay. Anyway, I think we should talk to him because he works with kids and does some of the same things that Philly Orchard does.
Not Scott.
It is Scott.
Is
Scott
it Scott?
Cattell.
Okay.
Scott Cattell, yeah. And I have a direct experience with Philly Orchard Project in 2 instances. When I worked at the Share Food Program at 29th and Hunting Park, Philly Orchard Project, which is called, often referred to as POP, created an orchard there, and kids did harvest. It was wonderful. And also, I'm currently on the board of the Germantown Mennonite Historic Trust, which has a community garden on site, and the Mennonite Trust is a steward for historic Mennonite Meeting House, which was built in 1708. So here, too, Philly Orchard Project has planted fruit trees.
And that's what you said Scott does?
No,
is Philly-
well,
No,
Scott, I'm not actually sure what Scott does, except that I know that he works
Has a
with kids.
connection,
I know
yeah.
that he's done a lot of planting. Whether specifically it's fruit trees, I can't tell you, but I think it's worth having a conversation.
Sure. No, that's great. Yes.
Just wanted to mention, too, Saul High School is nearby.
Oh,
If we're
that's a good
looking
call.
for people to come
Absolutely.
with programming.
Sure.
They'd be a great resource, I think.
Founder at Land Health Institute.
Yes, that's it.
Is that the one on Henry Avenue? Saul?
Yes.
Saul's on Henry Avenue, yeah.
And one caveat.
And the Wilsons could certainly speak to this. If you're going to have fruit trees, you have to create an 8-foot tall fence around the orchard. Otherwise, the deer will eat dessert day and night. So
Yes, they
it's just the way it is.
They'll eat everything.
Yep.
Vegetables.
Decimated our yard.
I think one other thing that's starting in my brain is there were a lot of prominent speakers that came through Abolition Hall, and might be an opportunity to work with our own schools as well as maybe some Philadelphia County schools, Philadelphia School District schools, have kids come in and do readings or performances or something else that teachers could help us conjure up.
Sure. Well, I know my kids going through PW in middle school had to do the living history, where you get dressed as the person and act as that person. And so that's kind of to what you're talking about. I think they probably still do that. Great ideas. I love just the brain dump. All kinds. Keep them coming. I don't think we have a date for the next meeting.
I wrote down a couple of dates that would be available. I mean, are we looking August?
I would think August or September, give it time for, because I don't know that there's that much that's going to change, and over
Yeah.
the summer, people are,
Yeah, it's tough in the summer to have
Yeah.
any meetings as we're.
well, I don't know what.
When might you find out about this other major grant? When, do you know when?
I don't know. I can look that up and see when that.
Because that, if that grant actually comes through, clearly that's going to trigger a frenzy of discussion.
Sure, sure. So maybe we could tentatively put something for late August or September, with the idea that if something happens sooner, that we.
Yeah, we can
First
always.
week of September?
So Labor Day is the 7th, it looks like.
Yeah.
We want to do it after that, right?
Yep. How about the 10th?
10th.
10th is a board meeting here, so. We could do the
Are there other days?
17th.
I can't do the 17th either.
No.
It's already getting crazy. Does it
You
have
wanna
to
go
be a
back to
third?
a
does it-
Monday?
If you go back to
that
Monday.
Thursday?
We
we
go
could
back
do-
to Monday, we could do.
Yeah, we did Thursdays because it's programmed. You should be
Right.
done that.
do the
And it's done, yeah.
Yeah.
14th of
I
September.
can do the 14th.
Same. All right, tentative for Monday, September 14th, 7 PM. All right, any other comments?
I actually have a quick question. Craig, do we have a spreadsheet or something that has the grants that we've applied for, received, or have been rejected of? Like
Yeah, I can
a
make one.
tracking system?
Yeah, I can make one, yep.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks.